So today we're going to make an air handler base plenum. We're going to do this a little different than probably what you've seen. I think most people, when they make them, they put a 1/2 inch out and they rest the air handler on that. I see some people do it where they bend an inch in and they set the air handler on it. Now I'm doing this on paper today because I think a lot of people miss what I'm doing on the metal with the glare and everything. So how we're going to do it is we're going to make an inside saddle to set the air handler in. So the air handler will sit right in there. This way you can use this plenum not only on a vertical air handler, you can also use it in an attic. You don't need to struggle in the attic trying to get the plenum on, because you could slide this one in the back. You could just drive a couple 1/2 inch tech screws through it and you're done. We're also going to leave the front open here for our filter. This also needs to be made out of 24 gauge. This unit that we're doing today is 21 by 17.5, but we're going to make this 17 3/4. Because sometimes you have screws on the outside of the unit and they will interfere with you getting this on. Now, keep in mind that when you do this, you're going to lose an inch in height to your air handler. So when you measure these, you have to add 3 inches of material to your measurement. So if you were planning on having a 14-inch high plenum, you would need 17 inches of material to do this. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to lose that 1/2 inch, or I'm sorry, that inch. With that said, let's get started. Okay, so we are making 21 by 17 3/4. Remember, we are adding a 1/4 inch to the overall measurement so that we can get it in there if there's any screws in the cabinet. So that gives us 38.75. We need 1 1/4 inch for our Pittsburgh, so that's going to give us an even 40. I've already cut the blanks. Now I'm going to show you how to mark it. So you're going to mark 1 inch for your Pittsburgh, inch for your Pittsburgh, 1/2 inch at the top, 1/4 inch at the far end for your 1/4 inch to go into the Pittsburgh. Then we're going to mark 3. You're going to mark 3 again on the back piece. Sorry, a little slip there. 3 on the back. Now you're going to mark 2. And you're going to mark 1. Now, I've put some marks in here to show you what this cut is going to look like. You're going to cut the line at your 17 3/4 line, and then you're going to cut that on a 45. Then you're going to cut down the 2. Remember, we marked it to 3. We're cutting down the 2 line. And we're going to cut another 45 at the Pittsburgh. And remember what I always say, smallest side goes to the Pittsburgh. So that's the only real crazy cut on here. So when you get to the other end, you're going to want to cut your 1/4 inch all the way back to the 3. Last thing we're going to do, we're going to put a 45 here. We're going to put a 45 here. Just so you guys can see what that looks like. Do our head cap notch. You could use notches for this if you want. That one was 1/2 by 1. Now we're going to do the 1/2 by 1/4. So that is the front half. We're going to cross break this. We're going to cross break this. We're bending a 1/4 here. We've got a Pittsburgh there. Remember, smallest side closest to the Pittsburgh, always on boxes. We're going to do a 1-inch bend here to the inside. And then I'll go over this with you when we get to the break. Okay, the back side notches, or the back half. So we are going to cut a 45 to the 1-inch. I'm going to cut the 1-inch out to the 3. We're leaving a 45 on the 1-inch. We're going to cut back to the 3 with a straight. We're going to take out a 45 on each side of that. We're going to cut another 45 to the 1/4. You guys can see that. Okay. Cut our head. Again, you could use notches for this. We're cutting to the 1/2-inch line. Here's the 1/2 by 1/4. I'll show you guys what that end looks like, what that looks like, what that looks like. Now, cross break, 1/4 inch on this end. Pittsburgh here, that's our head. And again, I'll go over this bend with you at the break. Okay, so our head cap, 17 3/4 by 21, which is going to give us 19 3/4 by 23. But we want to subtract a 1/8 inch out of that, which gives us 19 5/8 by 22 7/8. Always subtract an 1/8 out of your head measurement so that it fits inside. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cross break. Always cross break to your notch. Now we're going to bend 1 inch out. We are on the outside of the box. 1 inch out, 90 degrees. flip again. We're going to go to our 2-inch line. We're on the inside of the box. We're going all the way over, 135 degrees. We're going to do a squeeze. Now we're going to flip it back over. We're going to go to our other 2-inch line. We're going to get a mallet. Do not use a hammer on your Pittsburgh. Sorry, do not use a hammer on your brake. Always use a mallet, wood, rubber, whatever works. We're going to do our 1/4 inch. Now we're going to do our middle. Now some brakes will crush that side over here on the right when it goes in. Some brakes won't. This one's got a pretty deep pocket in it. Up 90 degrees. So that's our shelf for our air handler. Now we're going to do our other half. All right, so we're going to do our cross brake. Again, always cross brake to your farthest notch. Now everything I'm doing here is pretty much the same as any other plenum, meaning without this crazy hem we're doing, all boxes are pretty much the same. All right, so like we did before, and I forgot to mark this one. We're going to bend 1 inch up. And that 1 inch bend is going to the outside. We're going to go to our 2 inch line. Now when we started laying this out, we drew a 3 inch line. That 3 inch line was only for the notches to go to. All the way over, 135 degrees. We are going to do a squeeze. Do our 1/4 inch. To our 17.5 inch line. Sorry, 17 3/4, because we're making this a hair bigger to get by the screws. 90 degree bend. That's your back half. See what I mean here? That the brake will divot that a little bit, no big deal, you can straighten that out. Remember, always make these out of 24 gauge. Now we'll move on to the head cap. Okay, we're going to do our head cap. Cross brake. going to go around. We're going to do a 1/2 inch on all sides. You could cross break this backwards. It won't hurt anything, especially if you don't want the cross break hitting the floor, although you should be on top of something. All right, 1/2 inch all the way over all 4 sides. Bring yourself to the front of the brake because the brake is a 1/2 inch. You don't have to go crazy marking stuff. Always try and hang over the edge on the right so that you don't crush your pockets. Again, to the front of the brake. Light squeeze. To the front of the brake, all the way over. Most of this stuff is just very repetitious. Hanging over the end of the brake again, to the front. Now, squeeze. After you start bending, start with your longest side first. Always longest side first, so that you don't have to fight things. Front of the brake again, because again, it's 1/2 inch. 90 degrees. Hang the right side over the edge of the brake so that you don't crush it. Again, to the front. To the front. Degrees. We're going to move over. We're going to move over to the box and pan brake. Okay, we're going to bend our head. So, box and pan brake, for some of you who are watching this video that are just getting started, I can adjust all these fingers individually to match whatever dimension I need to bend. And the reason for that is I have this 90-degree bend here. We don't want it to hit anything and get crushed. So that will land in these open spaces. All right, so we're going to go 90 degrees. There we have it. This is why I tell you try not to squeeze anything, because you end up squeezing the pockets and you make your life miserable when you're going to assemble things. All right, so right here you can see what we have. So like I always say, tack all your stuff together first. Don't hammer everything over and then find out that you made a mistake somewhere. Everything started and even. Okay, I'm going to hammer this over and then we'll be back to show you how to put the head on. All right, so we're going to put our head on now. Always start with one corner. And be careful if you lock these down. If you have somebody out on a job doing something, they're not sure of the height, you could always send it out without it pinned down. They can always stick some screws in it. Or they can lock it down. They have the tool. Start your next side. Again, this is why I say shrink that measurement 1/8 of an inch when you make your head caps. last corner is usually a little tight. Sometimes you get a little ripple there. Don't hammer on things. You can always find your centers using the cross break as a reference. And there you have it. Okay, so now that we're done, you can use this vertically or you can use it horizontally. You can set your air handler right in this box on some foam tape just to seal it up better. And all you have to do, and check what your clearances are on your air handler, all you have to do is put 4 screws in this, or sorry, 6 screws. If you're using this in an attic, you could put this on and you won't struggle trying to get that plenum on anymore. You know how you're always laying in the insulation and everything else, and somebody's got to hold it and try and get it in. This eliminates all that nonsense. Hope you enjoyed this episode. See you in the next one.